Shalom everyone, Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.KosherTorah.com, bringing to you today's daily lesson in the Sefer Yetzirah. Today is lesson number 46, and we are continuing in our discussion of chapter 2, Mishnah 5, and of course we dedicate these classes to the health, safety, well-being, and prosperity of everybody around the world, looking to overcome every obstacle by finding every opportunity within it. Guys, it's time to move on now. Fear, insecurities have no place in our minds and hearts. Wisdom, understanding, and intelligence have to be the guide. Now, wisdom, intelligence, and understanding does not mean foolishness or blind denial of truth. On the contrary, it means having your eyes opened. And that's exactly what the 231 gates is out to give us. You know, when we want to talk about meditation and spiritual accomplishments, what exactly do you think all of that really means? That all of a sudden, I can see the angels up in heaven, and I can chat with God before his divine throne, and I'm now astral traveling, space trucking to all the wild and groovy places around the universe. No, that is spiritual entertainment, but that is not spiritual enlightenment. We have in our Torah tradition a very long and ancient written record of Ascent experiences and what happens when you do. You can go back into the earliest of this type of literature. The experiences, they go back biblical times. But the literature we have from the rabbinic period, from ballpark more or less around the time of the Greek intervention in Israel and, the life days of Alexander, 300 ballpark before the Common Era. That's about when the genre of the literature we have began to flourish. And why? Because remember, up until the time of the Greeks, we had books written, obviously Torah, the books of David, Solomon, things that make up the Bible. But look at the nature of this material. It was a different type of literature. It was a complete Hebraic experience of moralistic teachings as opposed to anything else. Even when we have actual fundamentals of ascent, the likes of which we see in Ezekiel and Daniel. Remember, this came at the period right at the end of the First Temple period under the Babylonian influence, where they're interacting with all of the Malachim. And that is when these records began. So what we call the Ascent School, Ma'aseh Merkava, is all about ascending. But remember, ascending takes us out of the limited structure that Yetzirah has created. That's called Ma'aseh Bereshit, and takes us up. This course is not about Ma'aseh Merkava. That is discussed in many of my other classes, the Kabbalah of Spiritual Contact, Torah basic meditation practices, both from Chaim Vital's other work, Sha'ari Kedusha. And of course, I have the Masechet Atzilut class and other things. Basic stuff, I have the Sefirot Merkava prayer, which is a very simple 2-hour introductory meditative process for those of you interested. I mean, you go into the notes or whatever, the writing here below the video here, you'll see I'll put the links there for you. But the point is, when we want to understand the Ra'ala Sha'arim and we want to use them, you got to understand what this is really all about and what it's for. Yes, Ma'aseh Merkava takes us up, but what's the purpose of going up? Answer, to bring something down. So you go back into that original literature. You go back into Ezekiel, go back into Daniel. And these guys, now look very carefully about Daniel specifically. Daniel received a tremendous and profound amount of information, revelation, insight. But technically, according to the specific definition, he never received prophecy. Because nowhere in the book of Daniel does it ever say, and the Lord spoke to Daniel saying, thus saith the Lord kind of stuff, as you see with Ezekiel. That's why Daniel's book has been relegated into the third section of Jewish scripture called the writings, whereas Ezekiel's in the second section called the prophets. Just a little different. But that doesn't mean Daniel didn't know stuff. On the contrary, in many ways, he was on a higher level than Ezekiel. Daniel practiced the Maaseh Merkava to go up, but he brought stuff down. And that is the secrets that we know from his book. Moving from that tradition forward into the genre of period and time that we're talking about. You had others who made us sense, who had revelations, who had insights, and using old forms of literature. You know what literature is, right? Like writings and stuff. They would write secret, profound teachings, but not in the most blunt, black and white, literal form. So when we read the example of the books of Enoch and those Ascent literature books, which is the first genre, the first literature in that genre, I should say, these are what we call pseudepigraphal. In other words, they were written in the names of somebody else. No, this is not the historical Enoch that we read about in the book of Enoch. The ascender, whoever this individual was, is writing in what we call a midrashic style, a moralistic story. He isn't telling a story, but the truths within that story are self-evident. That's the way the light comes down into the vessel. That is the Yetzirah process. And what is revealed in Enoch, like in Daniel, are profound revelations, wisdoms, and insights, which are combinations of letters which take form. Now, this is a point that the Rala Sha'ari makes very clear to us. What is the original alphabet, the original alphabet? Now, this is something you can speculate, and only in Ascent meditation will you ever be able to contemplate this, because that's going into the Belima of the Sefirot kind of stuff that we talked about in chapter 1. When you gaze into the Torah, as it says, you're able to see from one end of the world to the other. What on earth does that mean? What you're able to do is gaze beneath the present combination of letters and recognize their source. Now, this is a very interesting teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, who revealed and said like this: what is the original form of the Torah itself? Rabbi Chaim echoes this right here in his commentary to the Rala Sha'arim, where he says that the original form, that the letters are letters of light, which construct a body or the image of man. We discussed that man thing in our last class, male and female. Remember, male, female are both called Adam, man. So women are as much Adam, man, as any male of the species. It's two sides of the same whole. With that being said, the original Torah, the Baal Shem Tov says, is this combination of letters without form, without structure, belima, in that higher realm of the ideal. And what is that ideal form? Beyond us to know. And you know the Torah, you see the 5 books of Moses. Now here's a curious point. We say that Moses received the entire 5 books of the Torah at Mount Sinai. You think about that, it's a little weird, because the story of the Exodus is in kind of like the middle of the book of Exodus. The story of the 10 Commandments is in the middle of the book of Exodus. So you have the rest of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, which happened years and years and years after. How did Moses have those books before they ever happened? Now you could say, oh, prophecy, mystical magic. No. That would have been rather self-defeating. If you could like flip the page and see what's going to happen tomorrow, there's no choice. Everything's blocked in. Well, that stinks. It's like, a program operating. There's no reward, there's no punishment, there's no righteousness, there's no wickedness. It's just program. Who cares? So no, it's not like that at all. Therefore, the stories in the Torah of the golden calf, the sin of the spies, and everything else did not happen yet. How did Moses receive those parts of the Torah at Mount Sinai? Now, scholars of history can argue and debate this point, but we're here talking Kabbalah, spirituality, psychic, telepathic, intuitive reality. What Moses received was access to, at the Belima level, the letters in their ideal forms, floating, moving, just like, if you will, electron clouds around atomic nuclei. And as events collapsed into singularity here in this world to create the form and structure of our history, then those letters began to combine in this form and that form to create the words, which created the sentences, which then created the stories, which form the words of our Torah today. So, you had the primordial form, which was ideal, and then the construct form, which became its structure. Now, understand that this process of the ideal, the energetic, materializing into form and structure, this happens with everything. This is how our Torah is written. And in all due respect, it's the exact same way as every book of literature, your phone book, your advertisement catalogs, anything, even what we see online, any kind of literature in which we take the construct of the ideal or the theoretical in the mind and construct it into form and word so as to materialize, is following this exact same pattern. So there's nothing so revelatory here. But let's continue here with our language in the text. We spoke about permutating the letters with the name Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, and we recognized that that was the essence of how we imbue them with this energy. So, what do we have here? Nimsa kol hayatzur v'kol hadibur yotze meshem echad. We thus find that everything that is to be formed and everything that is to be spoken will come from a single name. The names of Hashem have holy names. I've taught the course on all the holy names. Remember what names are. They're combinations of letters, combinations of sounds. And there's not like a name like Tom, Dick, or Harry. All right, even the name Yud-Ke Vav-Ke is not actually a personal name. It's a code. Talk all about that in Walking on the Fire. Well, all the other names are equal codes. And it's the generation of and the vibration of these energies that materialize. Either we are performing the function of Yetzirah, which we're taking the energies down from above and bringing them down into form and structure and understanding of them. This is called Ma'aseh Bereshit. Or we're going up on Ascent, and we're looking at the constructs and now penetrating their forms of the letters to get to their Yesod, foundation, to get to the Belima Sefirot within them. That's the Ascent. That's what we call Ma'aseh Merkava. So you have the two forms. Ma'aseh Bereshit going down, Ma'aseh Merkava going up. These are the original schools of the secrets of the Torah that we have before the philosophical, theoretical schools that has become the norm today. So, moving on, the name. Yetzar memash metohu. We form that which is from the tohu, the original chaos and void. But word here is yatzar, which means that we're not starting something new. We're forming from what once it was or what is. The tohu remembers that prima matter, the primordial essence, the chi, the orgone, the kundalini, if you will. All right, this tohu, in our Torah tradition, we call that the keter, the ratzon, This is the source. And from this, we take the energy and the construct and we work with it to materialize that which is to be. V'alseh et eino yeshno. And we make that which is not into that which is. Now, if you look at the word eino, which means nothing, or if the will from nothing, ayin yud nun vav. And the next word, that which is, yeshno, the only difference between the two the two words, is in the nothing, there's the aleph, and in the something, there is the shin. In the first word, it's aleph yud, but then the next word, it's yud shin. So you see here, you have the same three letters, the yud, the nun, and the vav, but the one letter that's different is the aleph and the shin, which form fire. Fire, if we remembered, is the power of the mind. It's the power of the mind that begins the process of taking that which is nothing, the balima, into the yesod, and then into the materialization. That's how we make things. This is a process of mind. The chatzav amodim gedolim me'avir, and we are therefore engraving, carving. Remember we talked about that? These strong, powerful pillars, me'avir she'eno nitfas, from the air that is not grasped. It's not talking about the physical air, but the psychic air, the energy underlying it. This is the secret of how the Rala Sharim work. Unless you put what we call Yud Ke Vav Ke power, the primordial energy, into the structures and the forms, you will never able to accomplish anything. This is a practice that you can't just turn on. You want to pronounce all the right sounds and all the combinations? Take my courses. I show you how to pronounce all the holy names, how to pronounce the 42, the 72, Yud Ke Vav Ke. It's all out there. You can recite these things until you're blue in the face. Because unless you have the energy to put into it, nothing is going to work. I can't give you that energy. You have to work with it. You work with it in this structure and system of the Sefer Yetzirah. You work with it with the Maaseh Merkava school, and you merge the two together, because that's the secret therein. That is how we create these great pillars which bond heaven and earth and unite them, the Yachin and Boaz of the Beit HaMikdash. V'zeh siman. What's the sign? Aleph im kulan, kulan we aleph. You take the letter aleph and you merge with all the letters, and the letter aleph with all the letters, and all the letters with aleph. And remember, when aleph is at the beginning of the alphabet, you look out through the, if you will, color of the aleph. When you look out through the bet, you look out through the color of the bet, and everything becomes different. And these are the different combinations and structures that we have. You're therefore going to gaze out through these, in quote, colors. You're going to pronounce their forms and structures. Remember it said Adam gave the names to everything in the Garden of Eden, the animals. This is what he's doing. And he says he does mix everything that is to be formed from the prima matter. And then from every speech which emanates from the singular name, Yud Ke Vav Ke. And remember, that's a code for what it actually means. Siman ledavar. And what is again a sign of this? Esrimushtam hafatzim beguf echad. The 22 letters are here called hafatzim, or desires. They are energies. They are not just empty constructs. They are actual vibrant, living life forces. So what is the actual nature of a real letter? Don't go looking for this answer in the shape of the letter. You have to gaze into it. Sefer Yetzirah is here to give us the construct, if you will, the technique of using that which the Maaseh Merkava requires that we have first. That's why the Maaseh Merkava school is the highest school. It is the deepest school. It's that which takes you up. But what's the point of going up? To bring it all down. That's the cycle. That's the movement, male and female, like we talk about here. This is why we have the book of Ezekiel, the book of Daniel, the book of Enoch, and all the like. All these books teach us how to go up, and they predated the Sefer Yetzirah by centuries. And the Sefer Yetzirah says, now that you have that energy, what do you do with it? Let's change the world. And that's the secret of the Sefer Yetzirah and the function of the 231 gates. And that is the reality of what we seek. How and what we do with this? That's what our following chapters are going to teach us now, the structures of what to do. And that will be our next few classes. So pay attention to them. Check out here in the notes all the links to all the courses that I'm offering you. You want to do stuff? Here's your opportunity to do it. Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, KosherTorah.com, and little Sierra going nuts on the couch behind me here. Can you hear her? Can you see her in the background? The little paws going, there she is. Look at her. There she is. Oh, she's such a darling. I don't want to hear a word from any of you. You don't like dogs. You know what? Fine. This is real life. And this is the beauty of it all. So if I went over a minute there to share with you my little Sierra doll, God bless her. God bless you. Ariel Tzadok here. Talk to y'all soon. Shalom.